Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, beautiful people. Hello. Come on in. A special treat for you guys today. A special treat for you guys today. Andrea, I think you're way too excited.
Hello.
Hi, beautiful.
How you doing?
I'm good. I think my headphones are not working. I was trying to connect them because there might be some background noise.
Yeah.
But the universe is saying no headphones. He
You
wants to hear me loud and clear.
that's it. That's it. It's so good to see you
Good
in
to
this
see
way,
you.
to have some, real time. How we doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, I see you doing good. I see you doing good.
I'm trying out here. I'm trying out here. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm just going to close the shade so
Okay.
that I can
Sounds good.
get rid of some of the noise.
Perfect. I can't actually say the same because I'm in Brooklyn, and at any given point, the Brooklyn wild starts to occur. So if there's horns and all the noise
I
of the
know.
city, folks, listen, this is what it is. That's the soundtrack to my life. So enjoy it while it happens.
I live close to the fire department, and they're first responders. So it might get a little crazy, but it is what it is. This is our life, and we don't live remote So how are you? Tell everyone about you, because there are people in my community that haven't met you. But I think you're one of those people that I don't do this with a lot of people. You're very easy to talk to. You're a safe space for a lot of people in our community and for me. And you have those really real conversations that really have you thinking about how you're navigating through this life and whether or not you're present and you're taking responsibility for what's going on with you internally. So I really love just watching you in the last couple of years alone, just like stepping into serving and just showing up. So tell the people. And am I losing you? Because it looks like is that me or you? Am I losing you? I hope I didn't lose you. Guys, can you see me? Is it me? Is it my end? Andrew, if you want to pop out and come back in. Yeah, I think. Okay. All right. Don't worry, guys. We're going to get her back on. We're going to talk. She's actually going to interview me today. Well, and talk to me about and ask me questions about whatever. There's, like we don't have a list of questions that we decided on. I don't have any topics that I told her I didn't want to talk about. So ultimately, you guys are in for a treat. Let's see if we can get her back on. In the meantime, how's everyone doing? Thank you guys for joining. I know it's the middle of the day and a lot of you are going to be at work. So when you're rewatching this, it's probably going to go, if I'm able to save it here, but ultimately its final resting place will be on my YouTube. If you're not following my YouTube channel yet, make sure you go over there and you hit that subscribe button. Let me see if I have her back yet. There we go. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I don't know. Did it just fall out on my end? I'm not sure what exactly happened. But
you went away and then you came back.
I had to come back and make a grand appearance for the second time.
I love it. I love it. So tell the people about you.
Yes. So first and foremost, for those of you who are not familiar with me, my name is Andrea Mancuso. I am the founder of Intentional Healing and Wellness, which is a coaching and consulting business that I launched in 2020. My background is in mental health, so therapeutic interventions was my first master degree. I went back during the pandemic for mental health counseling because I, saw that we were going to for sure be in crisis with mental health.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
the foreseeable future. And
Yeah.
so, you know, I guess I switch between the three hats, which is counseling, coach, and consultants. And so I'm super excited to be here. I have the V Spot podcast. You know, for those of you who may never heard of it, the V stands for vulnerability. And so, you know, we have those conversations that, you know, are not always easy to have, but are necessary
Yeah.
to have, you know. And so that's the essence of the work that I am up to. And I'm so excited to be here having this conversation.
Which is a huge responsibility when you think about what you're doing, how you're helping people really tap in and tune into who they are authentically as a way to heal and not suppress. Because I know for me personally, like it wasn't until I had to really sit down in 2020 then I realized, oh, you got some stuff you need to work out, girl. Like
Yeah.
you've been covering this stuff up and, you know, putting a nice bow on it, but there's a lot of healing that happens when you really sit with yourself. So
Yeah.
I am here. I'm being vulnerable. I
I
told them
know.
before that we don't have any questions planned. It's just going to be how we feel safe with you. I've actually been on one of your lives before,
Yeah.
and I follow you, and I like your content and what you stand for. So I'm open.
Yeah, yeah. So first and foremost, thank you, right? And likewise, all the things right back at you, you know. So I think it's super important that when folks are able to connect and respect each other's work and have similar missions, it looks different, right? The way in which it shows up, it looks very different, but at the core, there's so much we have in common. And so I want to say thank you, and I'm excited to be here. Right, last time you came and joined me, I mean, similar setup, but you know, who hosts whatever, all the social media things. But just to what you said, I guess we could kick it off there because, you know, 2020 was an opportunity, however you want to look at it, for many of us to recognize, like, ooh, right, we get sort of sat down, if you will, by way of the, you know, the global pandemic, and we are without a lot of the distractions and the routines and the people and the habits that we normally had on deck. And so many people, myself included, found, you know, self looking at self like, whoa, there's a lot. And that was really what inspired intentional healing and wellness to be born anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it was like I was taken out, and I've shared the story on my platform many times. Like my older brother's in ICU. I lose access to every bit of training and everything that I had in that moment because we didn't know what was going on. How serious was this going to be? What was the story? And I found myself in my room, like laid out in fetal position.
Mm.
And after a couple of days, I was like, you can navigate this pandemic in this way, which we don't know how long it's going to go on and what's going to be.
Yeah.
Or you can really take every bit of your expertise, experience, training, know-how, and create something that is clearly needed, not just for self, but
For
for
others. Yeah. Yeah.
and so I sat up and opened up my laptop and started to do everything necessary to create the business, you know. And so
I
I love that
remember the day. I can even remember the picture of the launch of
yeah,
you launching it, which was
yeah,
exciting.
epic.
Yeah, that was really so. Congratulations on leaping when it was most necessary, and not just for like you made the decision to leap, not just for your personal self, but you
Yeah.
knew that you could help a lot of people, and that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And you know, the premise of it was to the point that you highlighted, which was this aspect of time and healing and the journey and everything. And what I always found is that time doesn't heal all the wounds. You know, it's 2020. I'm sitting with myself and I'm processing feelings and fears and emotions and experiences that are decades old, you
Oh,
know, and really looking at things about me that I was not proud of, not happy with, not excited to feel. And I was really in this conversation of time doesn't heal all the wounds, intention does. And so when I was looking at like the bigger picture for self in that moment and thinking about everybody else, I was like, I want to create a movement that really calls folks forward to do the healing work on purpose.
yeah.
Stop waiting. You know, I look back and I'm like, I waited. It was days and weeks and months and decades, ultimately, in some cases. And so when you think about your own journey, your own healing journey, what comes up for you around waiting versus like going towards the thing?
Well, for me, I didn't think I needed any healing.
Yeah, that part, right?
That
Healing,
was the
who
thing.
needs that?
I didn't even understand what that meant until it was right in my face and all the emotions started to come up. I had been working, had been working for a very big company at the time when the pandemic happened, and traveling and living a life of just, you know, you know, education in a more, luxurious way, because I work for a manufacturing company, high-end manufacturing company. And so my world wasn't really in that state of reality. I wasn't sitting with myself a lot. I was out late at night. I was entertaining clients. I had long days. Sometimes I would go 3 weeks at a time traveling. So I didn't understand, or I really there goes the music.
There goes.
I I really didn't sit with myself ever before the pandemic happened long enough to understand that I needed to heal and what had happened to me in the past, like from childhood or as a young adult, and some of the behaviors that I was partaking in to cope with all the stuff that was inside of me. I didn't know that was even a process. So it wasn't until I was kind of like shut down, locked away, and at home that I had to come to the realization that, okay, something's up. What is this? What do you do? What's all this emotion? Because I am one of those people that really retreats when I need to heal. It's just how I cope. I think people around me don't understand it, but I kind of have to go process all the feelings and stuff and then come back, kind of like rebirth myself. And I believe in I really do believe in therapy. I think it's important for you to go to someone who's educated about mental health and someone you feel safe with. So for years I went to someone here in Connecticut. I used to meet him in New York and in Connecticut, where he would help me kind of question myself and question what those feelings were. So while I didn't know that was what that was called, was the healing process, I was doing it because I felt these big emotions that I couldn't control. So healing from, just for me is just sitting with yourself and being honest and not trying to fix it. I don't try to fix it. I just try to understand what triggers I have around me, because every once in a while something comes up. And so I try to keep an open mind about growth in that regard, and so that I don't limit myself to just thinking that I can heal everything in one swoop and it's going to all go away, because that's not how it works.
No, exactly. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Like, can I check healing off my list?
Exactly. Like this week's to-do list. Healed, right? I love that you highlight that, because I think there's so much controversy and resistance and unknown factor to the healing journey, right? Because I love that you put it out there. I didn't even know exactly what it entailed. And I think that, healing as an overarching umbrella term consists of lots of different things. And for many of us, sure, it means looking back and processing some things from the past, right? But it also means what happened today, right? Because there's conversations, there's disappointments, there's setbacks, there's letdowns, there's feelings that are part of the human experience that there's no avoiding. And as they're occurring, like, healing is an opportunity to be present to all, to process, to feel, to experience, to be with, and keep going, And so there's a lot of debate that comes up where folks get, I would say, triggered, if you will, by this conversation of healing, because I think that the come from in those cases is that you're damaged if there's healing work to do, right? There's something wrong with you. You've had some sort of experience that has you broken. And I'm always in the conversation of, I don't believe that to be true. I believe that you're human.
Yeah.
and you're alive to experience the, you know, ups and downs and the peaks and valleys of what it means to be alive today. And with that, there's so much,
Yeah.
you know, so sure, in some sessions and cases and journeys that I go on with clients, yes, we're looking back and we're potentially like unpacking some stuff. And then plenty of people that I work with, we're actually with, where are you right now? What's, you know, going on? Where are you looking to go? And there's healing that's part of that conversation too. You know, what's
Yeah.
yet to even happen. So I love that you highlight that, because I think that when it's kind of new to folks, it can seem so like woo woo and, you know,
And they
so
don't want to dig it up. They don't, they feel
yeah,
like they feel like it's something that's buried that should stay there. And that's not the case. One of the things you just said, as navigating as a human being for me, is that there's a level of emotional intelligence that humans are required to navigate through this world and
yeah,
interact with each other.
yeah,
And I find, and I'm not, and this is not a judgment on anyone, because I'm sure there are instances where I'm not operating as my best self. And so when you put 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people together to, you know, have to be in the same place and coexist in the same place, there are different levels of emotional intelligence. And what happens is you could create some sort of emotional reaction and trauma in the moment. So it, like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that happened in when you were a child or, you know, younger. It could be things that are happening now. And I think for me, what I try to do is I always try to come from this place of, even if it's 10, 20, 30 minutes later, oh, wait, Dion, that
yeah,
just happened. And right away go back and say, you know what, I acted in a way. People who know me and are around me right now, they get this shock, like, wow, she's apologizing right in the moment. I do it all the time,
yeah,
Andrea, and people are like,
yeah,
what is this?
right. Like, see what's going on.
Yeah, they're like, what is this? Kind of like, they get kind of taken aback. But
Yeah,
for me, it's the holding myself accountable to growing in every moment. And if you want to call that healing from, you know, treating people with kindness and compassion, that's all also healing, like in the moment. So
absolutely.
healing has so many layers to it
Totally.
that people get afraid of the word, you're right, because they feel like they have to go back and dig up something traumatic that happened to them and kind of heal that wound. And you know what, honestly, that may not happen for you. You may never have to revisit that emotionally, but if you're equipped with the tools that
Yeah,
teach you how to cope,
totally.
then you don't have to be afraid when that happens, or you have the resources, people like you and therapists that can help you walk through those things. So for me, it's, I take a different approach to it, where it's like I go every day, day to day, and some days I had some rock bottoms and I'm like, girl,
Listen.
get up.
Listen, you know, I mean, I have my team in place to support me in the journey, right? Because I think that that's super important too. Because there are those days. There are the days where it's like, you know, wake up and it's all, you know, I got this, I'm doing, all of everything. And then there are days, unknown factors impact the mood or whatever. And, you know, you find yourself going through it. And then who is on your team to be able to support and hold you up and shine the light and see it from a different angle, because we have our, you know, we're on a certain journey and we don't always see ourselves the way we're showing up, you know, in the world, which is a big part of like emotional intelligence work is epic and necessary, I believe, because it really allows us to see ourselves and to operate under various conditions in ways that is, you know, the most supportive for all, you know. And I think that that's a very profound piece. And the good news about emotional intelligence work is that your EQ, emotional, you know, intelligence quotient, can improve.
Yeah.
You know, unlike IQ, your intellect, which is usually constant unless there's like some sort of brain injury, and then there could be a decline. EQ has the ability to improve, and when it does improve, you're talking about every area of life improving. You know, your career, your relationships, everything. So there's so much value in that work. That's a whole nother live. That's like a
Well, I was
part
going to
two.
say, though, what would you recommend to someone that wants to, or two little things before and you'll get back to like question, asking me about this, but what would you recommend to someone that's going to watch this later and you want to give them just two things that they can use to help them grow and heal and work on their emotional, growth and intelligence? What would be two areas that you think they can improve, or two tools they can use?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is to suspend judgment over yourself, right? Because as humans, we are on a spectrum, and until you know exactly where your emotional intelligence is at, right? Because that can be assessed through an assessment, and you can really look at all the quadrants and identify strengths and weaknesses and whatever. I would say, which I can do. So if there's anybody who wants to learn more about their emotional intelligence and what areas to focus on, you could hit me in the DM to talk about that further. But I would say first and foremost to suspend judgment over yourself, recognize that we all have areas of improvement. No one that is alive is like,
I've
levitating
reached
in the,
this
yeah,
level.
has, so,
I've reached the ultimate level and I don't have any more work to do.
right. That's so not the case. So I would say like suspend judgment over yourself, and also don't think that, I'm good in all the areas, because we all have areas. And so I would say the first part is like self-awareness, to really check into, and be willing to look at, where are my strengths and where are my weaknesses, and the willingness to be curious about that. So curiosity for sure, suspend judgment over self. And I would say begin with empathy. That's
Yeah,
a great
that's a
starting
big one.
place. That's a big one. It's like the cornerstone, I would say, of emotional intelligence work. And it's not about having to have lived the exact same experience as Dion. I don't know your life. I don't know exactly what you've been through. I can never, because I'm not you, but I can be curious to sit alongside you and hear about your journey and be able to relate in a way that I don't have to have lived your experiences. But
Yeah.
it's the willingness to hold safe space for somebody and care enough to be like, what have you been through?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to understand it, but I'm here to hear it,
Yeah.
And so I would say, if anything, and right now, 2023, you look around and the world is in need of empathy, I mean, we could see lots of evidence where it doesn't show
Yeah.
up. And so that would be the first thing that I would, offer to folks in terms of like emotional intelligence.
I still work on that, because I even find, I'm one of those people that I'm trying to get to a place where I let everyone live exactly as they want to, and then I decide whether or not I want to have them in my universe, basically. So, but just sitting back and saying, you don't know, I always say this, you don't know what they're going through on a day to day. You don't have any idea of, what they've been through in the past.
Yeah.
Whatever this is, whatever this, emotion or this response or this projection is a place where they still have room to grow, but you can't limit someone to showing up 100% all the time, because like you said before, we're humans.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing for me. I know that I've changed in that regard, because I used to be very critical. I'm like, oh, why isn't this person doing this?
Yeah.
And I'm sure people were looking at me that way. So now I'm like, okay, this is the way this individual navigates through life. I wish them well, but I don't have to have them in my space. So I give myself room to give them empathy and be compassionate, but decide whether or not it's something that's someone or something that's going to help me grow. And if it's not something that but I learned from every situation. Like, a couple of weeks back, someone was there was this level of microaggressions happening back in digital communication. And I'm like, no, this is a boundary for me.
Yeah.
I've already been through corporate America where I know what this is.
Right.
And so I'm just going to back out of this scenario, because this does not fit the life that I want, the woman that I'm becoming. And, and I sent love and I sent a gentle word, but then the kind of like, what do you mean? I'm like, and then I know that that's what was happening. So
Right, exactly.
it's also knowing yourself, and really being strong and centered in yourself, and leaving room, because you never know, the situation might evolve where I have a different experience with this person in the future. But for now, like, boundaries are very important for me. So
Yeah,
important.
totally. And I think that's, and that, when a lot of times another thing that's so mysterious, or sort of like, wait, what is it meant when people say doing the work, right? Like, that's in essence part of the work. It's first of all establishing your own
Yeah.
boundaries, and then enforcing them and upholding them, so that if something occurs where you, feel something, see something, don't let, there's an opportunity for you to assess, like, does this work? This doesn't. You could express it. If you're going to stick around, you have to, comply with, and vice versa. And that in essence is like the work in real time.
Yeah.
But I love that there's this level of, like, insight, and I see that in you, from when I first met you, to like the transformation, the
I feel
like
like
your
I'm a whole different person though.
yeah, because like, I mean, I don't know exactly the moment that we first met and communicated and stuff, but I do see how you should, like, show up, how you self-assess, how you are not impacted versus being impacted, or nothing's like personal, it's all very much like we're on this journey.
This is, we're all going there, and some
Yeah,
of us are going to take detours, some of us are going to go straight, some of us need some rest stations.
absolutely.
Like, that's how I look at life. I've always looked at life this way though, where hi everyone that's on. Hi guys, we love you all for coming on and joining us at this time of the day. I also have always looked at my life as chapters. I've always said this. It's like a book. My life is a book, and every chapter I have characters, and some characters are going to be in the entire novel, and then some are going to come in and out. Some have recurring roles, some just have like a feature, and then you never see them again. So this happened to me, one, because of a relationship I was in, and I had the courage to ask my boyfriend at the time. We were in this place where he was like, I'm here, I'm not here. And it was a long distance relationship where you need that person to be present. So I said to him, and I don't even know where this came from. This was me, maturing and evolving well before I even knew I was ready. I said, like, in this chapter of your life, where do you see us, and how do you see us, and do you want someone, a mate in your life, ongoing and in every chapter? And he was honest. And I've always used that. From that point on, I've always used that, because I feel like it gives people grace to just be who they are and just show up when they want to show up. And then there's not this pressure that you have to be everything all the time. I think there's this kind of like, I struggle with this a lot, because I've always said yes a lot.
Yeah.
Throughout my life, I've always said yes. And once I started saying, no, that doesn't work for me, or I'm sorry, I have to decline, I felt like I grew wings.
Right? It's so free.
I grew wings, but that goes back to what you said. It's like, just give everybody, show everyone empathy, and let them just show you who they are and where they're at. And if it works for you, it does, then carry on. And if it doesn't, then you kind of like, not push it to the side, but you kind of just move on to the next thing. So
yeah, and there's a tremendous amount of personal development work in that process. I could say for myself, one of the biggest areas that has been life work really is letting go, allowing, without realizing. I'm able to now look back and see how I had a force factor to me, right? Like, when I wanted it to be a certain way, I was going to make it happen a certain way. And to my detriment, right? And I didn't realize it, of course, at the time, but whether we're talking about, romantic relationships or different scenarios, there was this tendency to want what I want and have, and like, and what I heard in your share around communicating, to your partner, like, and asking, was this allowing of him to say, hey, this is where it's at, versus like, this is my chapter and you're in my book and I want to write you
to
play a
do
certain
this.
part and have it
Yeah.
do it right, certain thing. And when I look back and am able to reflect now from a different standpoint, I'm like, wow, some of the most painful moments were caused as a result of me forcing
We're
or
seeing.
holding tight to something that, if had I only let go, in hindsight, right? That good old 2020. This is part of the journey, is the willingness to look and learn, to say, the door is open. And if you want to come into my life, welcome, and I'm here for it and embrace you. And when you want to go, I'll allow, and not see it as all of the things personal and this and that and everything. And so I love that analogy and the use of chapters. I very much hold my life as like a similar, story, chapters, books,
Yeah.
And the most important part that I'm always reminding myself in that scenario is I'm the author.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You still get to write whatever story you want. You just get to decide who's in it.
Absolutely.
And even when people decide to go, it's still you writing the story of what the next chapter looks like. Because this person walked out, but your next chapter can be even more amazing because you've decided to do something that was outside your comfort zone. So I'm no longer scared of that part.
Yeah.
Everything that I've let go in the last 3 years has come back to me.
Yeah.
I just send it away. I send it away with love, and I send it away with kindness. And I'm always trying to think, because this is how I want people to show up for me. What is the best thing and the best scenario and the best situation and the best environment for me? Mm-hmm. And that's what I try to project for other people.
Yeah.
Is that level of giving them space to do what's best for them, even when, like you said, if it's a romantic thing, even when you love them and you don't want to let them go, holding on to something tight only makes it worse. So
yeah. I mean, I'm sitting across from me this way is the refrigerator, and on the side of it there's a magnet that says let go or be dragged.
Oh wow.
And it was, a perfect reminder as I've been journeying through my own life, right, my own story, my own chapters, to have something very visual that's a reminder of, like the willingness to let it go, and when it's meant, it's meant, and when it's not. And the way our lives occur to us and our processes and feelings and emotions and all of it, experiences, every single one of us are going through it, right? Yeah. And so when somebody opts to not show up a certain way or show up in a certain way or react to a thing or overreact to a thing, it's because they too are going through their journey. And and so therein lies like the empathy to be able to, I love the meme that circles around the internet where it's the iceberg and you're seeing a piece of it, and then underneath the water.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Like I see you and I can have certain conversations and share space with you for X amount of time. I have no idea. And so it's, if we would all be willing and in a commitment to recognize that and be curious versus knowing, right? There's a tendency for folks to be like all knowing. We have it all figured out. We know because we're going according to the way we see the world and the way we process. But I have no clue for you, and you have no clue where I've been. And there's this willingness to come together and be like, well, let's talk about it. Let's actually share from a place of curiosity and discovery versus like, I have you figured out and I know. I don't know.
I don't want to figure. I don't have the energy to figure people out anymore. I just want to give them grace to be who they are.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I know you must follow Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
I think she's just fantastic.
So good.
She says, and I posted this on my page a couple of days, or maybe a little over a week ago, where she speaks about the boundaries are not for other people; they're for you. And it's really, you were talking about that scenario that happened to me. I removed myself from the situation because I'm like, this all works for everybody else in here. This energy and all of this works. So it's me.
Yeah.
I need to go and regroup and maybe become a little bit stronger, but this doesn't work for me. So now I just remove myself. And you'll never find me in any environments where I am uncomfortable anymore, in a way where I don't mind going into discomfort where it's going to help me grow. Like
Yeah.
if I have to leap and go to a conference, that's something different from just putting myself in a social setting that's going to make me angst. Two different things.
Absolutely. And
So
therein lies, right, the boundary and the upholding of it. Because it's one thing to establish it. It's another thing to find yourself navigating life and then doing the work to implement, like, this doesn't work, you know, regardless of all the, you know, external factors. Yeah. And there's such an important part of taking time to identify, you know, and be with that process. It's so different. And I think even for each of us, it might even change a little bit as we journey through our stories, right? Because different things become the center of focus and concentration and importance. And there could be a bending of like, right now, this is the season that I'm in. So we're ever changing. And that's the whole thing about no destination of like, ta-da, I
I'm
arrived.
here, I'm healed.
Exactly. You know, and it's, I almost feel like I was thinking about like the lifestyle that I hold it to be, like healing, and how it really is an open-ended willingness and consistency and awareness to be with your life in a certain way. And we all are in different places. And so again, in terms of like intentional healing, I always say clients come to me, some of them will come because they're like, I want to get here and want support because I really need to be able to make sure this all happens. Other people come to me and say, Andrea, I have no clue what I want to do, but I know I can't stay here for one more minute, you know, like where I am. And then it's really being like willing to navigate and go on journeys together. And it's always better together. You know, that's like the epic part of, I believe, this, you know, this life, is to be able to connect and journey through and feel the things, right? And that was the original part, Dion, for this conversation too. Feel your
I like she forgot.
Feel, you know, it was a good come full circle.
I should know you better than that, though. I'm like, she's not gonna forget the reason why we came here.
No,
because you know why though. I feel like you and I have been trying to plan something for a while, and then I saw that, and I'm like, whoa, this really resonates with me. I think it's something that I want to share with people, and who better to share it with and have the conversation with than someone who's already broached the topic, understands the topic, and I can have a safe conversation with her. So I knew that was coming. And so you can tell everyone what, you know, and kind of lead the conversation about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I shared a piece of like a segment of an episode that I did on the V-Spot recently in a reel, where I speak about the aspect of, you know, you can't escape your mind. And so feeling your pain wisely. And it came to me because what I started to think about a while back was my own journey, right? I could only go by myself as the first reference point. When I looked at my life and recognized that there was some experiences that brought about tremendous pain, and my attempt to avoid feeling all of it had me make certain choices that added another level of pain.
Sorry, I want to see your face.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to put the comments back on in a second.
Yeah. So I recognized that when I looked at my life and looked at some experiences that I recognized I was trying to really bypass and get around for a long time, what I realized is that I ended up choosing to put things in place, or I turned to things as escape routes or outlets, if you will, or vices, call it whatever you want, that ultimately created another level of pain.
Yeah.
And so when I started to think about it, I was like, wow, you know, it looks different for everybody, but oftentimes because we are navigating uncomfortable, painful, or unsettling experiences, we may eat, right, and turn to food for comfort. We may turn to substances or alcohol or sex or exercising or working or shopping or gambling. Like, it looks a million different ways. And in essence, we're adding another layer to our pain, right? Because now we still have the original source of pain, and now we have whatever the next thing that caused. And when I started to think of it, I was actually sitting right here when I had the like breakthrough, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's such a call to action to feel your pain wisely.
Yeah.
Because by trying to avoid it, by trying to go all around it, you're actually intensifying it by adding new layers. And that was the essence of the clip that I shared, that, you know, ultimately you shared. And thank you for sharing.
And it also gets, it caught my attention because, you know, like there's, for a lot of reasons, everything that you said in there kind of like really resonated with me because of where I was, where I am, and where I see myself going. And that, you know, am I neglecting things in my life that I should be doing? Yeah. Like that was the realization. Oh my God, Deanne, you have these things that you're doing and you're doing these other things. Like I have a problem with saying no. I really have a problem with saying no because I feel like I'm letting people down. But I realized I was pulling myself in so many different directions that I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, it was the staying busy with everybody else's tasks that I'm not getting my stuff done. I'm not taking care of Deanne. I'm not taking care of Deanne's business. I'm not taking care of, you know, what's right for her, what her purpose is, what her passion is. But just to go back, and I'm going to turn the comments on because this might be something that people want to talk about too. For me, you know, when you said alcohol, and so I don't drink anymore for that reason. I stopped drinking in 2020 for 8 months. And I thought it was going to be, you know, kind of like, first I thought it was going to be like 90 days. And then I decided to not drink until my birthday, which I was turning 40 that year.
Wow.
And then for my birthday, I drank. I had some champagne. And then New Year's, you know, came around and I drank again. And then I realized this is not for me because what happened, not consuming alcohol for that extended period of time, I really kind of recalibrated my system once. So a glass of champagne now, I get buzzed out of my mind. And this is coming from someone who used to drink all my friends under the table. Not proud of that. I would drink all the guys under the table. My one friend, Josh, says, what do you mean you're not drinking? That doesn't even make any sense.
Right. Yeah, I really get it.
Yeah, but so I know now that I used alcohol to avoid processing anything emotionally. Because now it's kind of like when I think about it, whenever I think about, oh my God, I could do with a cold beer, then I think about, why do you want a cold beer?
Yeah.
What are you avoiding? What do you need to work on? What areas of your life you still need? And there's I have a list. I'm like, at the end of my life, I hope I get through this list of things I need to do. I'm just realistic about this now. I'm like, I'm gonna make the list, and what, you know, if I get through it, I get through it. At least I have the list and I have a goal. Yeah. But I used to use, and coming from that environment where I was entertaining clients, you're out, you're drinking. Sometimes I'm going away for conferences and I'm out overnight, and I'm drinking until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I have to be up and present. So I was in this cycle of that for, I think, over maybe years.
Yeah.
And not honoring myself, not honoring my body. When people see me now, who saw me in, you know, from like 2017, 18, 19, they're like, they recognize me because my face ultimately is the same, but I've completely transformed. This person is who I was meant to be. I always think if I had given myself and cared for myself and loved myself enough to embody this woman and operating in that environment, let me tell you, because I was a badass back then, but this body, this kind of like drive, this mental toughness back there, forget it.
Yeah. But it's such a testament to the journey, right? And it's, you know, there's such a desire to bypass the journey, and, you know, we can't get the medal without running the race.
Yeah.
And so it really is essential to go through, and you being who you are in this very moment needed to have processes the way I do. And I too, when I look at, you know, what do I want to improve? What do I want to change? What do I want to accomplish? There's a scroll. There's tons, right? So there's not this, I don't sit before you. And everybody who's here, thank you for being here in this moment. I don't sit before you from a place of like having it figured out and knowing, right? Like I'm on this journey, I'm doing the work. There are some days where I'm like, what are you doing? You know, because you don't catch certain things, and that's the humanity part of it. But there are certain parts that I experience in this moment only because I went through everything that I went through to get here, right? And so it all is right on time, you know. And I would say something that you said that was just, I wanted to go back to, I talk with clients about, and self, you know, a lot of the conversations I have with clients I have in the mirror. And it's this thing of like, a no to others is a yes to self.
Yeah.
And that is something that when it's first happening, it's so uncomfortable. It's so hard because it's that people pleasing tendency and the, you know, wanting to be validated, like to prove all the things. There's a million reasons why it all happens, wanting to support, wanting to help. But in essence, like when I look at my own life and I see where I was, you know, the most unhappy, I was tending to everybody else, and I was at my heaviest weight, totally in the throes of depression. And I had to like check into, what are you doing here? Like you have to put all this energy on you. And with that, yeah, I'm not showing up in other people's lives in certain ways that I used to. And, you know, there's a big process around that, you know, because it's, people are used to you a certain way, and you're used to you a certain way. And then it's like making those changes. That's like, again, the work is implementing the really hard things. But, you know, this part of feeling the pain wisely, I want to call everybody forward who's here and anybody who catches the playback. I want to first acknowledge that, you know, we've been through some things. Everyone has a different level of experience behind them. And sometimes there is a real desire to want to not feel it, right? Or think about it or head towards it. And in terms of what you shared, Dion, pertaining to like drinking and the patterns, I identify, right, in at different times of my life, in different chapters, there was different vices on deck, right? And I've yet to talk about all of them. There's plenty to come. But I would say that only you, for everybody who's listening, only you know if you are turning to an escape route, right? Like you do know. You could pretend not to know. I was really good at that for a long time. Like, nah, I got it all under control. No, we know really in our heart of hearts when something's problematic. So this is not a live to say, don't ever drink again.
Well, that's the thing. Here's the thing. People, I don't think that I was an alcoholic. I just think that whenever I had those difficult things that I needed to do emotionally that work, I would just drink so that I avoid it. So it's not like, I know that I can control drinking alcohol. I just decide to not have that in my life because it allows me a level of accountability to myself. I'm showing up for myself in a way where I know, okay, Dion, whenever those tough times come, and they come, like the last month I might have had like five bad days where I'm like, oh my God, the old me would have poured a couple of shots of tequila and just not process what's causing this, you know, what are you doing, you know, are you in your formula of what you do? So now I have to work out because it makes me feel so alive. You know, there's meditation involved. If I'm drinking and I'm not present, I can't really do that self-reflection because there's, you know, I also wasn't drinking to the point where I was drinking 1 or 2 drinks. I was drinking all night. You know, so I don't think it was a case of where I was an alcoholic. I just knew that now where I am emotionally, mentally, spiritually, I know that I was using that as a coping mechanism, especially where I should have not been in a job. I should have left my job, you know, years before, where, you know, I didn't. And the only reason I wasn't strong enough to do that is because I had this little crutch of, you know, it helped me to avoid the taking responsibility for my life. And that's what I think it brought up for me is, what are you using to distract you from taking responsibility for your life? Like, that's how I heard that when you said it. When you said
so good. That's so good. And it's triggering in me. Like, there was a time in which I checked into vulnerability and intimacy particularly. And so I've shared on my platform at different times, like one of my, you know, struggles, I would say, and life work so far has been navigating through like body image and body shame and different experiences pertaining to, you know, my physical body. And at a certain point in my journey, I checked into intimacy and vulnerability and looked at, you know, the fact that I was pulling myself from the experience by way of having a drink, right? And I started to look, and I actually got so curious, and I started to ask friends and ask, you know, close people in my orbit, um, when was the last time that you had sex and didn't have a drink or didn't smoke weed? And I was blown away when I started to get the answers and started to recognize. And I was like, whoa, like, wow, there's something here. And so not only was I realizing it in my own life, that because of my insecurities and because of things like take that edge off, you know, in some capacity, but
I
then I
like
was recognizing
that word, the edge.
right? Like it was literally right. The edge was surely taken off, but I started to really dive deep into this. And with it, I started to recognize and have a desire for presence in this regard. And it was uncomfortable. It was so uncomfortable, right? Because when I was, you know, in my next experiences where I was choosing, you know, it's the daytime and it's you know, there's not
it's
a
day
drink
and there's no alcohol and you have to be wide awake and everything's bright,
you know, right? And there's this opportunity to be intimate and experience. It wasn't easy, right? It wasn't. And I wouldn't even lie to you to say that it was like, oh, whatever. And there was healing work around it, you know. And so it was one of the times that I started to really get present to the vices, you know, and what were they pulling me from? And then I was in a commitment of like, I don't want that to be the case. So if I'm going to be wherever I am, I want to be there fully. And so if I'm in an opportunity and in an experience where I'm sharing of myself in this way, I want to be there, not be, you know. And so it's one, and that's just a short piece of like a small part of, you know, realization and journey. But I want to put it on the table because there was an invitation, and there was an invitation extended to self, and then there was me accepting the invitation to feel my feelings. And when it was uncomfortable, it meant feeling it. When it was, you know, great, it meant feeling it. And so for anybody who's listening, it's about identifying for you, where might you be pulling yourself from your experience, you know. And that's the place to check in, because usually that is the point to what needs your attention and work regarding
the most. Yeah.
You know,
make a list of all the things you need to do, and when you're supposed to be doing those things, what are you doing instead?
Right. Like what's the substitute, right? Because there's always like a replacement behavior. And it's a powerful journey to go on. It's rewarding work. It's not easy, but I always say it's harder to not be doing the work. When I look at my life and I think about how I showed up, how I lived, how I was choosing certain behaviors and things, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, it was so much more painful in those ways than it is to actually be with like the realities and all of it. I know
I can't even imagine though. Now that I'm here, I'm glad I went through the process.
Yes.
I'm glad I went through the process. Now, you know, like but I've never, you know, you just brought up a point to me that I've never got on a date where I didn't have a drink. It's going to be interesting when I do decide to start dating again.
Yeah, right. Listen, we'll bookmark this conversation and be like, that could be a whole other segment. And I actually hesitated even saying it because I know that there's like a lot in terms of that conversation, but I think that it's something that's really deserving of our focus. And it's certainly a journey that I went on and continue to stay on, you know, I'm committed to it in terms of like the discomfort and what happens by way of all of the intimacy, vulnerability, and then the willingness to proceed, you know, and the willingness to do the thing anyway. And that recognition of, you know, I'm not for everyone and whatever. And I have to.
It's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's okay. So this last weekend I had my stretch event and I had like a mini pop-up in-person version. And you know, when people say, oh, you know, you don't get along with so and so. I was like, you know what? That's okay. I'm like, your vibe attracts your tribe. Like everyone that was in my space, Jenny, Elise, Lisa, Crystal, that's my tribe. Those are people that I feel safe with. So you don't want to be for everyone, because if you're for everyone, then you don't find the people that are for who your authentic self is meant to align with. You know, you can't really connect with your people when you're trying to be everybody's people.
No, it's so true, right? And that's the case for business too. If you know, kind of targeting everyone, you're targeting no one. And there's a real courage involved in, you know, being with that truth and navigating through, and an acceptance around all of it. And such is the work, right?
Yeah.
Such is the journey to be on. And it's ever growing and going, you know, and all of it. So, I mean, I have a client at 4, so I have to prepare to hop off. But Dion, there's so much that was said that I feel like I wrote down a few notes. I'm a note taker.
I have to go back. I don't like watching myself. I can't watch myself. And I also don't like the sound of my voice.
Nobody does. You're not alone. You're not alone.
So, but thank you, Andrea. And if anyone's watching this later, just tell them all the spaces where they can come and support you, so that they have your information. Yeah.
So, I mean, first and foremost, I want to say thank you to you. I appreciate being here with you, having this conversation. I always love, you know, to connect with you. And I did jot down a few notes. And so I can circle to the DM to you to be like, this is probably worth revisiting. This is, you know, for us to be able to like bookmark some things. But for folks who are not part of the intentional healing and wellness community, if you're not already following, you can hit the little, you know, thing and hit follow, join the community. I am on Facebook at Intentional Healing and Wellness, TikTok, which, you know, I'm not on TikTok as much as I'm here, but intentional_healing. And if you are interested in working together and connecting and seeing, you know, if we would be a good fit, hit me in the DM, you know, so we can talk about it. If you're interested in the emotional intelligence part of things, right? Doing an assessment, you know, being the courage,
doing the work, taking the courage, leaping
to find out like, where are you and where would it serve to strengthen so that life in general improves, you know, hit me in the DM. And I would say, Dion, I'm going to give the people a call to action, and I'm going to let you close it out with a call to action as well. Folks, feel your pain wisely, right? Whatever it is that may be causing you discomfort, grief, upset, that's enough to work through. We don't want to add the layers on. And so recognize for you what you might be adding on, and know that you are enough to get through all of it. There's people who can support you. You're never alone. And allow the support in, you know. So when you get off of here, like, do a minute of, you know, mindful sort of introspective journeying. Where might you be adding layers of pain? And let's seek to lighten the load, right? Let's lighten the load. And Dion, you close it out.
I love that. I think we're going to close with that. I love that. I appreciate you, Andrea. I'm happy, always happy. I always feel a little bit lighter whenever I speak with you. I feel like I'm growing, you know, because of, you know, what you do, and the work that you do is heavy lifting. So, and it's very selfless. So I applaud you for that. I'm sending you always love, light, and encouragement, and abundant success. Have an amazing day, everyone that joined. I'm going to post Andrea's page. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. I'll see you all soon to be continued. Take care. Bye.